What if I told you that what is destroying your soul, you still call love? It is not the screams, the betrayals, or the abandonment that hold you back. It is the silence you have learned to endure. It is the way you look at yourself and believe you deserve little. It is the dangerous habit of justifying the unjustifiable, of smiling while you're falling apart inside, of confusing intensity with connection, and of calling survival a relationship. Carl Jung warned, what you do not make conscious becomes your destiny. But what if your destiny right now is the invisible repetition of what hurt you the most? Have you ever found yourself forgiving someone who never changed? Have you ever felt that by setting a limit, you were the one who was wrong? Have you ever found yourself shrinking your essence to fit into the little that was offered to you? Have you ever apologized for expressing pain, fear, or tiredness? Know this, there are behaviors that are not only toxic, they are spiritually unacceptable. Jung didn't write to sound wise. He wrote to liberate, to show that there are emotional dynamics that numb the soul, that steal your sparkle, that extinguish your inner light so subtly, that you only notice when you're already empty. This video won't be kind. It will be necessary. Because maybe you need right now to be shaken up, not violently, but with truth. With the dark truth that by tolerating what hurts you, you betray yourself. And with every little betrayal against yourself, you lose a piece of what was once whole. So breathe. And get ready. Because today, in the words of Carl Jung, we are going to name what you have been calling love, but which is in fact a silent pact with your own destruction. And once you see it, you can no longer unsee it. Carl Jung believed that what you tolerate you feed, and what you feed grows inside you until it occupies spaces that should be sacred. The soul, he said, becomes ill when forced to live in environments where its truth cannot breathe. And that is why today we need to talk about unacceptable behavior. Not because we want to point fingers, but because, as Jung taught, the first step toward healing is naming the evil. That which is not named continues to move in the shadows, stealing strength, draining light, devouring dignity. 1. Covert emotional manipulation. When someone makes you feel guilty for having boundaries, needs, or simply for not acting as they expect you to, you are being manipulated. And the most dangerous thing is that this does not always come with explicit shouting or blackmail. It comes with subtle phrases, meaningful looks, and punishing silences. Jung said that the most devastating punishment is the one that makes us deny our own essence. Because when you do that, you don't lose the other person. You lose yourself. 2. Contempt, disguised as sincerity. Some people pride themselves on being sincere, but in reality, they are cruel. They use the truth as a weapon, not as a bridge. Carl Jung warned that any truth that denies compassion is tainted by shadow, because criticism without love does not build, it only disintegrates. And if you normalize this type of treatment, you end up believing that you deserve to be humiliated in the name of frankness. 3. Control masked as care. You know that kind of care that suffocates, that zeal that tells you who you can see, where you can go, what you can feel. That's not love, it's domination in disguise. Jung showed us that the desire to control others stems from the fear of facing internal chaos. People who cannot control themselves try to control others. And if you confuse this control with affection, you are accepting a cage as your home. 4. Gaslighting, the distortion of your emotional reality. This is perhaps the most silent of poisons. It is when someone convinces you that your feelings are not valid, that your pain is exaggerated, that your memory is flawed, that everything is in your head. Jung said that when you lose confidence in your own perception, you become a prisoner of someone else's reality. And little by little, you begin to doubt what you feel, what you see, what you experience. 5. Contempt for your inner world. When someone mocks your dreams, ignores your passions, or minimizes your interests, they are not just disrespecting you. They are directly attacking your soul. Jung taught that what is repressed does not disappear. It just hides in the shadows. And when you silence yourself so as not to disturb others, when you reduce yourself to fit in, you are tearing pieces of yourself away in the name of a false connection. 6. Lack of empathy as a constant. We all fail to be empathetic at times, but living with someone who never acknowledges your pain, who turns your vulnerability into discomfort, is like walking on the edge of a cliff. Jung said that without empathy, there is no true relationship, only empty exchanges between wounded egos. If you cry and the other person blames you, you are not loving. You are begging to be seen. These 6 behaviors are not isolated failures. They are patterns. Patterns that, if not recognized, shape your worldview. They make you believe that all of this is normal, that this is how things are. And little by little, your essence adapts, your voice falls silent, your soul withdraws. But Carl Jung warned us, everything we don't face within ourselves, we will encounter outside ourselves as fate. And that's why we can't go on without looking at this with courage. In the next section, we will explore the last 4 behaviors that Jung would never allow you to tolerate. 4 subtle but lethal forms of emotional abandonment. And we will understand why stopping justifying them is actually the beginning of a new story. As we delve deeper into Carl Jung's proposed deep dive, we understand that much of the pain we carry does not come from what others have done to us, but from what we continue to allow. Tolerating the intolerable is betraying yourself, and this silent, everyday betrayal destroys the soul more powerfully than any visible wound. 7. Repeated and justified betrayal. When someone hurts you repeatedly and always comes back with empty promises, that's not love. It's manipulation disguised as regret. Jung saw compulsive repetition as a sign of unresolved trauma. You believe that each last time will really be the last, but it never is. And with each new relapse, your soul cries out louder, but you've learned to ignore it. 8. Selfishness camouflaged as self-sufficiency. Some people don't know how to love. They only know how to receive. You give, you care, you support, and the other person only shows up when they need you. Jung taught us that relationships like this are not bonds. They are emotional exploitation. If you are always carrying the weight of everything alone, that is not strength. It is exhaustion. And exhausting yourself for another is not love. It is self-abandonment. 9. Continuous sarcasm as a communication style. It's just a joke, they say, but every joke that hurts reveals a hidden truth. Sarcasm used as a pattern is a socially accepted form of contempt. Jung claimed that the unconscious finds ways to express what the conscious does not have the courage to verbalize. Often that humor is actually a shadow, and every shadow that repeats itself without confrontation erodes bonds until only hurt remains. 10. Emotional indifference as punishment. Ignoring someone is a passive form of violence. It is saying, without words, you don't matter. And when this is repeated, the being fragments. Jung said that human beings need connection in order not to become ill. When someone withdraws their presence as punishment, they destroy your deepest emotional foundation, that you are worthy of love even when you fail. And without that foundation, you begin to doubt everything. These behaviors, even if subtle, leave deep marks. They don't scream, but they silence. They don't hurt with brute force, but they slowly drain you. And it is precisely because they are subtle that they are dangerous, because they disguise themselves as care, humor, normality. But they are not. Carl Jung made it clear that the soul cannot flourish where it needs to shrink. And every time you accept less than you deserve, you are telling your unconscious that maybe you do deserve it. You are normalizing chaos. You are accepting pain as part of the landscape. But there is a limit, a breaking point, a moment when pain ceases to be background noise and becomes a cry for liberation. Maybe that moment is now. Maybe this is the moment when you begin to see clearly what you have always felt but couldn't explain. The moment when you understand that you no longer need to justify your desire for peace. The moment when you decide that your soul will no longer be a shelter for other people's shadows. And it is at this very moment that I want to propose something to you. If any part of this video touched you, if a behavior described here reminded you of something you have experienced, if an old pain resurfaced, if a truth of yours finally found words, go to the comments and write, "My soul deserves to be heard, not ignored." Write it as a ritual, as a commitment to yourself, as a promise that starting today you choose yourself, and that no matter how long you have tolerated it, now you know. And knowing is the first step to freedom. Carl Jung never wrote to be applauded. He wrote to wake you up, to stop accepting emotional crumbs as if they were affection, to stop confusing survival with love. Because as long as you continue to tolerate what breaks you, you will day after day be nullifying entire parts of your soul. For Jung, the shadow is not evil in itself. It is everything you repress, including your dignity, including your intuition, including your legitimate anger at what diminishes you. When you silence yourself to keep someone close, you bury your truest voice. And over time, you stop listening to yourself. Many believe that enduring is loving. But enduring without reciprocity is repeating the emotional childhood where you needed to earn affection. Love is not asked for, much less begged for. And if you still find yourself trying to prove that you are worthy of love, perhaps what you are experiencing is not love. Perhaps it is just a mirror of your first wound. Jung said that depression is like a woman dressed in black. If she shows up, don't send her away. Invite her to sit down and listen to what she has to say. The same goes for your pain right now. Don't hide it. Don't ignore it. Listen. It is revealing what you can no longer tolerate. Tolerating contempt is teaching your unconscious that it is acceptable. Tolerating constant sarcasm is programming your soul to live in confusion. Tolerating indifference is slowly convincing yourself that you don't matter. And that's not love. That's desensitizing your very essence. It's unlearning what it means to be respected. Some people ridicule your healing journey. They say you are too sensitive, that now everything affects you, that you weren't like this before. But Jung warned the process of individuation disturbs those who still live masked. Those who reject their own shadow fear those who dare to face it. You've heard it before. You're overreacting. Not this drama again. You need to stop taking everything so personally. Each of these phrases is an invisible knife stuck in your emotional system, because they are not just words. They are subtle forms of gaslighting. They are attempts to distort your perception to keep you obedient, silent, and shrunk. Jung said that the goal of life is not perfection, it is wholeness. And being whole means knowing how to say, "I don't accept that anymore." Even if it hurts. Even if it drives someone away. Even if it brings silence. What you lose in company, you gain in integrity. And that, my friend, that is worth your peace. Dangerous relationships aren't just the ones that scream. They're the ones that drain you. They're the ones that make you doubt yourself. They're the ones that weaken your presence in the world. And they do it gently, constantly, with apparent normality. How many times have you found yourself justifying the unjustifiable? How many times have you lied to yourself saying, "It's not that bad"? But the severity is not in the intensity of the act. It is in the frequency with which it corrodes. A word spoken once can hurt, but spoken 1,000 times it carves wounds. Jung taught us that those who look outside dream, those who look inside awaken. And to awaken is to see what you pretended not to see. It is to accept that what destroys you does not come only from others. It comes from within, from the place where you allowed others to build a home without deserving it. Your heart is tired not because you are weak, but because you learned to resist where you should have left. You confused loyalty with self-abandonment, and the more you endured, the more you lost yourself. There is an emotional illusion that needs to die, that if you love enough, the other person will change. But Jung said that no one changes until they face their own shadow. If you are doing the work that the other person refuses to do, you are not saving them. You are sacrificing yourself. And there is no real love where there is unilateral sacrifice. So if today you feel like you are fading away, that your intuition has been stifled, that your joy is in captivity, listen to this with an open heart. This is not love. This is emotional dependence disguised as affection. It is the repetition of childhood patterns waiting for a different ending, but the ending changes when you change, and the cycle is broken when you say no more. You may be alone for a while, but you will be whole. You may feel lonely, but you will no longer be destroyed. You may doubt at first, but soon you will. Feel what you have never felt before: lightness, silence without fear, nights without anguish, days without guilt. Carl Jung said that the privilege of life is to be who you truly are. And if to do that, you have to lose those who only loved you halfway, then let them go. Because staying where your soul is ignored, that is losing everything. You are not broken. You are awakening. This video is not here to comfort you. It is here to remind you of what you have forgotten, that your soul is sacred, that you were not born to be diminished, that you did not come into this world to silently endure what destroys your sparkle. Carl Jung said that true healing doesn't begin with answers. It begins with the courage to ask questions. And today, perhaps for the first time in a long time, you allowed yourself to ask, why am I accepting this? How long will I abandon myself? What version of myself am I killing so that someone else will stay? You have walked through every unacceptable behavior as if walking through a field of emotional debris. You have seen the pieces of what you tolerated. You have felt the echo of what you swallowed. You have cried over memories that no longer knew their way back. But now you know. Now you know that every no you swallowed fed your shadow. That every boundary you ignored left a scar on your soul. Self-esteem. That every time you pretended that everything was fine for fear of losing someone, it was you who lost a little more of yourself. And most importantly now, you know that you don't have to continue like this. You can stop, breathe, choose. Jung taught that the unconscious directs your life until you make it conscious. Today, you took that step. You made the invisible visible. You named what was tearing you apart in secret. You looked your pain in the eye without looking away. And that's all. That's what starts the healing. That's what plants the seeds of a life where you no longer need to hide, where you no longer trade your peace for crumbs, where you don't explain yourself for being sensitive, where you don't diminish yourself to fit into other people's emotional molds. Maybe you'll cry after watching this video. Maybe you'll be silent. Maybe you'll feel anger, sadness, or an almost violent clarity. Allow it. All of this is your being returning to its center. All of this is your soul coming home. Now breathe. And if all of this touched your heart, if you felt that this content spoke directly to you, leave a comment with a phrase that will be your anchor from now on. A promise, a reconnection. Right. My story begins where I decide not to tolerate what erases me. Write it as a ritual, as a silent cry from someone who has chosen themselves, from someone who has decided to be whole, even if it means starting over. And if this video reminded you of someone, share it. Sometimes a soul needs a mirror to recognize itself. Sometimes a word is enough to start the transformation. Like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications. But above all, turn yourself on. Because from now on, there is no turning back. It's inward. And deep down, you always knew the love you deserve would never make you doubt your worth.